and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Pro-Biden ads in 4 swing states because the Democrats know that they're screwed. That's right, folks. The Democrats know not only are they going to get screwed in this 2024 presidential election cycle, they know that if all this fails, all this action towards Trump, these indictments, these plans to have him behind bars, if it happens, I know there's all the quote-unquote anti-Trumpers that are celebrating that, oh no, this is the time now. This is the time where Trump is going to go behind bars this time. Breaking, uh-oh, heads up. No, that's not the case at all. Here's the real situation. The Democrats are doing this because they're trying to garner whatever remains of Biden and the Democrats' support that they built up in 2020 that is now, if it hasn't evaporated already, it's going to. We all know about inflation. We all already know about the precarious situation our entire economy is in. And the Democrats now are trying to do damage control. And the thing is, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have Trump derangement syndrome, so they'll be easily susceptible to these, well, 4 pro-Biden ads in these 4 swing states. So let's go ahead and check out these clips. Case Study QB, I don't know how you sit through this stuff. You clearly are made of stronger material than I am. So if you're not following Case Study QB on Twitter, please do so, because he's somehow sitting through corporate media. I couldn't do it, but Case is, and that's why he deserves a follow and support. And he's still being wrongly censored by Twitter, which is messed up. Elon, fix this.
As Republicans bring doom, gloom, and at least one possible indictment to the 2024 cycle, Democrats are trying to bring back hope. A new ad campaign.
Hope and change. Where have you heard that before, huh?
Boosting President Biden in 4 swing states, contrasting his policy wins with GOP culture wars.
Biden passed bipartisan legislation to build things here in America again, lower prescription drug costs, and cap insulin at $35, and always protect Social Security and Medicare. But now he's battling extremists with a different agenda, MAGA Republicans who oppose these common sense investments.
Okay, so let's talk about this investment to our infrastructure. Hey, folks, count them, count them, count them. How many train derailments have we seen already? How many pipelines have burst? You know that Colonial Pipeline is still leaking. How many bridges are unstable? How many of our roads are filled with potholes? Oh, yeah, that infrastructure bill working out swimmingly, perfectly well for the American people.
Joining me now, former governor of Montana, Steve Bullock. He is the co-chair of the American Bridge 21st Century, the organization behind these ads. Governor, Bloomberg reports this is the biggest ad buy in the presidential race so far. We talked a lot about how there have been all of these policy wins. You've seen the same polling I have seen. There is a disconnect between the policies that the Democrats in Congress, this president, have pushed forward, and the American people's perception, both that work has been done and that it's impacting their life. Do you think they can, these ads can close that gap?
Look, Alicia, it's a start, right? As you note.
All right, here, let's have democracy in the chat, because you know what? I'm really sick of these jagoff politicians, these pundits, everyone thinking that, oh, it's a start. Are you swayed by the ads? Type 1 if you believe, like, yeah, Biden, he's going to do something, and he's going to fix things this time around, and we're going to resist those evil MAGA Republicans. And look, before it gets twisted any further, all right, these are not endorsements for the Republican Party. But let's be very clear here. There's so much political ammunition the GOP can use against Biden. It's ridiculous. The type 2, if you're like, oh no, I'm burnt out by this. No, I don't believe it. It's more stupidity. Let's see how many people believe in the propaganda. I'm wondering how it's all going to go out. Everyone just believes in the propaganda.
We need to make sure that all Americans know who actually has their back. And what we've seen over the last years is President Biden really sort of building back from the bottom up. We've seen record-setting new job creation, and we've seen fighting to lower drug prices and cap insulin. Well, what we've seen on the other side is the exact opposite. Not even
here. All right. This is a personal question. Anyone, because this video will be clipped and in the live stream, I'd like to see this too. But if you feel like answering this question, I want everyone to be respectful, okay? But how much are you paying right now for insulin or prescription medicine? Are the prices lower or higher? Have things improved under the Biden-Harris administration? Please give us your answer. I know this is a personal question to the audience, but again, I just kind of want to get a feel of, well, gee, how hunkadory is everything truly?
Protecting Social Security and Medicare.
And the only reason why I ask this is because it's important to hear from the people, because the people have been ignored in this country and are being screwed over by a system that's going to bail out the banks, the Wall Street executives, the hedge fund managers. So if you choose to participate, I want everyone to be respectful to people's answers, because this is hitting close to home, and a lot of people right now, at least from the ones I've spoken to, they're hurting.
Care. Certainly not voting to allow the federal government to negotiate drug prices. So what we need to do, and that's why at American Bridge, we've started in 4 states, mostly in rural areas, reminding people who's actually fighting to make their lives better. And yeah, on the one hand, 2024 seems like a long way away, but the time to start reminding people of who's actually fighting for them is today.
Talk to me about those 4 states and talk to me about the choice to over-index these in rural areas.
Yeah, we need to make sure that, and for a guy who lives in an ex-urban area, right, that we need to make sure that all of this country knows that Joe Biden and the Democrats are fighting for them. And you talk about healthcare issues, whether...
Hey, that's interesting to talk about healthcare. What about the people of East Palestine, Ohio? You know, what about that big old train derailment that happened there? What about the people of Flint, Michigan? What about the people of Chicago? We still have lead in our drinking water. That has long-term health ramifications. I mean, I don't know. Gee, it seems to me, no matter where you live, be it in a major metropolitan city or rural America, all Americans are being screwed over.
That's a woman's right for her bodily autonomy or drug prices. Think about half the counties in this country don't even have an OBGYN. The challenges that are faced by those extreme Republicans, what they want to do, can meaningfully impact people in rural areas. Now, we've seen in rural areas, unfortunately, over the last handful of cycles, that the Democratic brand isn't always as good. But when people are actually talking about who's fighting for their interests, who's capping insulin prices, who's actually, you can't live in a community if you don't have decent infrastructure, sewer and water, who's fighting for them? It's the Democrats. And that's why.
It's the Democrats that's fighting for them. Well, gee, how come they're losing these rural areas? How come they're losing in states where it matters, especially key electoral college states? It's because the Democratic Party, similar to the Republican Party, sided with corporations, Wall Street executives, and big banks. And the thing is, the Democratic Party said they're for unions. They said they're for the people, but no, they're not. And all this talk about what? Oh, there's some rural parts of America that don't have an OGBYN. Well, guess what? Roe v. Wade died under the Biden-Harris administration. Interesting. So, in other words, a woman's right to choose died under this administration. So even the most diehard Democratic supporters, they're going to be climbing up a mountain in regards to convincing voters to turn out to vote for these jagoff politicians in the Democratic Party. And now it's easy for people to say, oh, well, gee, Kit, the way you criticize the Democrats is going to help the Republicans. Well, gee, I'm not part of the Democratic Party. And I'm not the one who told the Democrats to abandon their supporters. I'm not the one who told the Democratic Party to screw over progressives. I'm not the one who, again, mind you, when Biden-Harris got elected into office, they said that they were going to bring back America's soul. I guess it's pretty soulful that all those kids are still in cages, too, because that's another promise that has been broken, too. Those kids are in cages. The kids are in cages still, Joe. The kids are still in cages.
Sure, a year plus out in some of these ex-urban areas, we're starting that reminder so that folks won't wake up the day before an election, hearing some extreme stuff coming from the Republicans and say, all right, they have my back. They'll remember the Democrats actually have, and President Biden has their back.
I'm intrigued by the apocalyptic messaging coming from Republicans because
I'm intrigued by the apocalyptic message. Well, of course, because here's the thing. There's a lot that the GOP, here's the thing. There is so much political ammunition. I said this before. I'm going to say it again. There's so much political ammunition the Republican Party can use against the Democrats is pathetic. The Democrats, when Biden got elected, had a majority. Was it a super majority like how Obama and Biden had it in 2008? No. But there's a lot that the Democrats theoretically could have gotten done if they wanted to. If they wanted to. But they didn't. Because they got their marching orders from the establishment and their donors on what they can do and what they can't do. And what the donors want is for them to get richer. That's how this system works. The number one constituents to the United States Senate and House and to any president, be it Republican or Democrat, their number one constituents aren't the average working class citizen. It is and always will be Wall Street, big banks, and the top 1%.
You don't have to reach that far back in history to know how it plays. You can just go to these last midterms where this was the same thing that they were selling in the midterms. It didn't work out for them. You had a lot of voters who just felt that they in general had become too extreme, that there was overreach in the case of issues such as abortion. At the same time, there's going to be all of that. And then there's going to be the other big story that we're watching today, which is at least one possible indictment of the former president. I wonder, from your vantage point, how that scrambles the equation going into 2024.
Well, look, I think in part, you mentioned, they make this extremist message. But maybe, to be honest, that's actually where so much of the party is. What seems so extreme to mainstream America, who just wants to make sure that, their communities are safe, they have a decent job, clean air, and clean water.
Notice that, clean air, clean water. Clean air, clean water. How many cities and small towns are right now struggling to provide clean air and clean water to their communities? How many times have we reported here at Hardlands Media of another town, city, or state, or community that has some sort of dangerous contaminant in their water, air, or soil? I talk about lead in Chicago's drinking water. We did not one but two documentaries in, the state of Indiana, where we did the toxic tour and how industrial toxic waste is being set loose into Lake Michigan. That's kind of a very important thing that's happening here. But hey, Democrats care about you. They always care about you.
A good job. So the more that they're just talking about these issues that don't impact every single person's life every single day, they do look that much more detached. And between, what may come down against former President Trump and how much of that field's fighting actually just to beat President Trump, I think as long as we can remind people who actually has your back in making your life better, that it will be good, as we saw in 2022, right? During the midterm, so many folks said, well, no, it's going to be gas prices or it's going to be inflation. When all of a sudden Republicans said what nationally they've been saying on closed doors is we want to take away a right for a woman to make her own healthcare decisions, and we want to do it across every corner of this country, then it becomes that much more real for folks.
So how come when the Democrats have had not one, but countless opportunities to codify Roe v. Wade, they never did it? Remember when Obama had that supermajority? I do. I think everybody does. And you want to know what Obama said? It's not the number one priority right now, folks. Not the number one priority. Not the number one priority. But don't worry. Don't worry. Here, hey, listen. In case Biden can't even become the nominee, just in case, because there's a lot of health issues that good old Joe 330 is dealing with. There's also the fact that Kamala's not the front runner that the Democratic Party wants her to be, because she and her approval ratings are abysmal. And when you get roasted like this on Fox News, you don't stand a chance.
Another challenge challenging/embarrassing week for Kamala Harris. First, she could not answer a very simple question on Stephen Colbert's show. Yeah, he still has a show. And the question is, what is your job?
I know you love Veep.
I do.
Veep.
Is it accurate?
There are bits of it that are actually quite accurate.
What is the actual role on a daily basis as you have found it?
Well, I have the great privilege of serving with Joe Biden, who was president of the United States.
Listen to the sheep. Bah.
Right.
That's an excellent answer. And the question was, what is the job of the vice president?
And she didn't even answer the question. Just gave a hot air answer and says, "Oh, I like Veep." Ha 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 ha.
And your answer is part of the job, I'm guessing. Desperately trying to save her. It gets worse, though. When she showed up to the March Madness game for her alma mater, Howard University, the crowd booed her in Iowa. Then she thought it was a good idea to give the losing team a pep talk after the loss.
Oh, and by the way, I really feel sorry for that losing team. You want to torture somebody? Get a pep talk from Kamala Harris. Folks, listen. If you think you had a bad day today, and look, let's face it, people have been having bad days. I really feel sorry for these kids, these students who were a part of this team, who had to get this pep talk from Kamala. I mean, it's not funny. I mean, it kind of is because Kamala's failing at this pep talk. But on the other hand, too, it's just like, oh, Jesus. Even the most simplest of tasks, Kamala, you can't follow through on it.
You played to the very last second. You made all us Bisons so proud. I mean, literally what you have done is in historic proportion.
Oh, God.
Back in the day where we were just happy that there was a game. Much less getting to this place.
Newt Harris, social media, and had a field day with that.
Jeez, that. Oh man, I'd jump off a bridge after hearing that. It's like, oh, all right, I can't take any more of this torture. That was a pep talk from Kamala. That was abysmal. I only hope that 2024 is actually entertaining in regards to the epic failure of who these politicians are, both Democrat and Republican.
Twitter user posting this. Every team that loses should have to listen to that as punishment. Another writing, truly feel bad for these guys. They lost the game and then had to be subjected to that speech. And this user saying you can literally feel the cringe in the room. I am speechless.
Again, just I feel sorry for all those kiddos because they had to deal with Kamala Harris and that pep talk. But you know what? Perhaps maybe this is something that would brighten their day. So if you're part of that basketball team and you had to deal with Kamala, giving you that pep talk, here's something to cheer you up.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
Yes!
Oh, I told you I'm going to have some fun today. Today's going to be a fun show. Today's going to be a very, very fun show. So there you go. Miguel H writes in the comments, in the live stream comment, cringe, absolutely. But there's a bigger picture here, though, and I got another video here from Fox News in regards to Kamala, in regards to the Democrats, and discussing a potential challenge to Biden from the left. No, it's not Marianne Williamson, but there is talk about Biden. His polling numbers are falling. Inflation is rising. The economy is struggling. And the thing is, the Democrats did not follow through with any of their campaign promises. So we got one more video here. Shout out to Case Study QB. Again, how he sits through this is a miracle upon itself. If you're not following Case Study QB on Twitter, please do so. He does great work.
But I think a lot of the progressive complaining is really pro forma. They know that Joe Biden is their guy and maybe has to fudge some of this if he's going to run for re-election. But I don't see it as a significant change in policy myself.
Kim, what about the potential challenge to the president from the left? You do hear a lot of grousing, but I heard Bernie Sanders this week said, well, you know, we'll see what happens next year, even though we disagree with some of the decisions that he's made. The president has an awful lot of chits in the bank with the left. So do you seriously think the challenge could happen from the left?
Well, I mean, he keeps giving them out, Paul. I mean, one added thing to this Alaska Oil Project is even as he approved it, he gave a big handout to the Green News by saying, I'm also going to put most of the rest of Alaska off limits to any future drilling. So
And I don't believe that at all. Again, to all those activist groups, those environmentalists, all these social justice groups, the fact that all of you destroyed your credibility by siding with a guy who was one of the many architects of this neoliberal economy government that we're in, you've lost all your credibility. You can never recover it. And the reason why is because Joe Biden has always been on the wrong side of history. And looking at him now, the way he carries himself, the way he speaks, the way he was indifferent with the people of East Palestine, Ohio, the way he's been indifferent with so many other communities that are struggling in this country right now, Biden will once again be a flawed candidate. But see, the Democrats don't care if they win or lose. They care if enough people remain in their party so there really isn't a true challenger. And the Democrats already showed what they're going to do to any kind of progressive movement. They'll destroy you. They'll smear you. They'll go after your followers. And don't expect said politician to have your back. Bernie not once but twice screwed over his people. So the final note for this story, for this segment, the big takeaway is this. 2024, it'll be another election year. We'll be bombarded with people saying, this will be the most important election of our lifetime. As if 2020, 2016 weren't labeled as the most important election years of our lifetime. Right? Or 2012, or 2008, or 2004, or 2000. And I keep going on and on and on. The real truth is Americans are struggling, and the real solution is citizen ballot initiatives, voting and supporting for independents and third parties, and building movements and organizations that cannot be overthrown or co-opted by the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Because nothing will fundamentally change if Americans keep voting for the two-party system.